All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Enlightened Conversations. Really excited for today's guest. We have Hannah Wallace, who is out in England, and really excited for you guys to meet her. Her energy is amazing. I was introduced to her from Emma Mumford, who was on a previous episode. Really amazing book right now, Spiritual Queen, and really excited for you guys to meet Hannah now today. And just heard her share her energy with you. She's a writer, a blogger, a podcaster. I'm going to be a guest on her podcast in the coming months. And so just really excited to have this conversation with her. So without further ado for me, I want to introduce you guys to Hannah. And Hannah, if you could share with the audience so that they're more familiar with you, who you are, what you do, why you do it, and all that good stuff.
Hi guys. So yeah, it's really, thanks so much for having me on. I'm grateful to Emma for linking us up as well. You know, that's synchronicity, isn't it? And magic, all in one there. So I many years ago got very unwell, and through that journey, it led me on a journey of spirituality, self-discovery, and learning how to look at things differently. And with all the knowledge and the healing processes that I learned, it came to a point where I realized that I needed to be able to share with people that whatever situation you're in, you can find a way. It can be possible, whether you're in this place or this place, and whatever the circumstance, from that, maybe that dark place you're in, we can integrate that darkness with the light, and from that place that comes possibility, potential. And it doesn't mean that necessarily you might be on the path of someone, that maybe you've been admiring, but you'll become true to your path and your truth. And I realized for so long, I spent so long looking at what other people were doing and not always knowing or feeling that I had the ability to do that. But when I switched that mindset to actually, I'm going to find a way for me. And that's what led me on the path with my writing, and then deciding to bring out the podcast. And I just wanted to share that message and show it doesn't matter, because I have to use a wheelchair. And for me, it was a long time about the fear of being seen. That kind of judgment, that we have this image of how people should look within kind of the world that, we kind of mix in. And it changed everything when I was like, okay, I need to own this. And it's been a really positive experience for me. And I want anybody who feels in that place where I don't want to be seen, I don't feel good enough, to know you are good enough where you are. Just because you're not where the other person is, we can find another way. And that's kind of my mission. And that's what I want to be able to bring to the world, that there is, we don't have to all be the same. We don't have to look the same. And it's important to show that diversity as well.
You've said some really good stuff already, Hannah, and you've inspired me to say a couple of things. And one of the big reasons, what you just described, why I love sharing a planet with 7.6 billion people, is knowing that none of us have had the same life experience. Like every single one of us have had a completely different, completely unique life experience, which has developed some very unique, personal, preferences for all of us, things we like, things we don't like. And as a result, we all have very unique desires as far as things that we want to create while we're here. And, my message to everyone always is there's no one capable on the planet to create whatever your desire is to create exactly like you, because they don't have your life experiences like you have to inject into those creations. And you said something else that was so inspiring. Whenever we're admiring someone else, and I'm sure that most of us have had times where we're asking ourselves, can we do the things that we're seeing other people do? Once I became aware that the same energy flows to and through us all, and really is who we truly are, and that the same energy was flowing to and through them and her and him and all of us, I was like, okay, they've just become aware of how to flow that energy in the direction of the things that they want to create, and that's allowing them to manifest and to create those creations. And it's just for me to become aware of that and be able to flow it as well in the direction that I want to go. So I love how you started this conversation off, because those are things that would really give me so much peace when I became aware. And then that's probably the number one thing that I like to help others become aware of, so that they can go out and create, the things that they want to create. Because, like you mentioned, I mean, we're all so unique. We can all go out there and create, whatever it is we choose. So I love that.
Yeah. And I think it's learning it's okay to be different, and knowing that that's where your powerful place of potential is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, for you, how did you, like your process of, wanting to share this with the world? Did you start, you mentioned before we started recording, you mentioned, a really powerful experience where, all of a sudden you discovered a book, which, I might start asking people what kind of was their moment, if it was a book or a person. I think that's a really cool place. It's come out sometimes in these episodes, but I don't think I specifically asked. But it was cool. We were talking about that beforehand.
Yeah, definitely.
Share kind of how your process went. Did you have like some challenges in your life at that point? You mentioned being in a wheelchair. Was that already the case then, and then all of a sudden you attracted something to help you as far as book goes? Like, explain how that process worked.
So I actually at that point wasn't using a wheelchair. So when I actually got into spirituality very young, from about the age of 12, 13,
Wow.
This is before anything happened. So, I just decided I was going to be a yoga teacher. That was kind of where it all began, because I was very, flexible, whatever. And I just got on this path, and I read various religions, and I was just always known amongst my friends as this kind of the hippie one. But I think because I'd always been like that, I was accepted. So then, I was 16, 17, and I became ill with, at the time, what we thought was just a glandular fever virus. But I basically woke up one day and I was never the same person again. I didn't leave basically my bed for 5 months. I went from being a very active kind of person that had, a whole life and dreams ahead of them, to basically barely being able to brush my teeth and brush my hair. And for anybody listening here, it's a very hard to go from that place where you're a high achiever, you're doing everything to that, and it took a time for me to process, because I looped into this dark place. And it was only when I kind of woke up a little bit from that place, I mean, I was okay, I have to try and, bring some healing in, that I started to explore alternative therapies, because I'd already obviously been on that journey. And it was while exploring those alternative therapies, I started coming across books, and a therapist that I was seeing said to me, in Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And at the time I was like, oh, look, I'm on a spiritual path. I'm not God. You hear that word. And he was like, trust me, give it a go. Look, you're feeling really depressed, because I was really struggling to shake from that depressed place, no matter what I was applying to this. So yeah, I read the book and something clicked. I was able to reconnect that connection with source, with God, and communication that I was going to be able to understand. And it was from that place that it opened me up to this idea that I thought, okay, I'm in this place, I'm in this position. The one thing I have the power over here is, I might not have the power over my physical body right now, but I have power of my mind. And when we get our mind in the right place, it changes everything. And that's the place that I took it from. And by using that as my foundation, whatever happened in all those years later, so we're like 19 years on in that process, and we're human, there's been ups, there's been downs, it's been a long journey, and it hasn't been easy for me, but that foundation set me up, and it allowed me to cope dark moments as well as the light moments, because it's when to learn how to apply the tools that you've learned. It's very easy, as we all would know, when we're flying high or feeling good, to apply and get on the roll. But it's when we're down and we're like, okay, how can I look at this differently? How can I choose? What can I be willing to do here? That's where the magic is. And then, actually, what I will say is what I said to you, is that I was very lucky 15 years later to meet Neil and be able to tell him, your book was the book, and the amazing synchronicity to that story. I was meant to be going to one of his events where there were going to be, 100+ people, and due to a circumstance he was in, how that his papers had been filled out wrong, he wasn't able to make the event. So at the time, I was free on the Monday, which was a few days later, when he was doing a smaller event, and the company who'd organised the event invited anybody who had a ticket to the full day event to come along before his small event he was doing and have an audience. And only 15 of us turned up because people were at work. And so it was amazing, because it really was a circle of people getting to talk to this author that, that it wouldn't have happened like that if he hadn't have been detained in the way he was. So I was like, wow, this is meant to be.
The synchronicities of life are so cool. Those are always my favorite parts, the parts that this had to happen this way or else it wouldn't have happened, and this had to happen this way or else it wouldn't have happened. And that really makes me appreciate the, what's going on on our behalf behind the scenes, call it the universe, call it God, call it love, whatever anyone wants to call it. But there's obviously something at work, putting all the different pieces in place, knowing that, this person can be used to suggest a book, like the doctor suggested a book for you. And I wanted to point out, something that I've noticed that, Hannah just gave another example of. But whenever, we're dealing with, we're at a challenging point in our life, or just at a point in our life where we're ready for something to come into our life that can help us in some certain way. We never know exactly what that's going to be, but it always comes when we're ready to receive it.
Yeah.
And until we're ready to receive it to where we're actually open to it, then it can't find its way in. Someone might have suggested, 5-10 things to you, or, 5-10 people might have suggested something to you, but if we weren't open, ready to receive it, then it can't come in. And that's, for me, that's a great reminder for myself as far as, things that I like to share with people. If it's not being asked of me, like it's rough to just deliver, information, but I can relate so much because there's several times in my life where I needed something to, the first book that, was suggested to me that I related to you. I was really struggling in my 20s, just trying to figure out, what I was going to do with my life. I had an injury that made it so I couldn't play sports anymore. And I thought I was going to play pro sports, and just kind of lost, in my whole 20s. And I was fortunate to have someone that saw enough in me as far as my desire for, to achieve and to want to have purpose and to, live a certain lifestyle. Say, Noel, I think it'd be a good, idea for you to read, The Science of Getting Rich, Wallace Wattles. And that book just was the first book I had ever read when it came to personal development, or by choice. I told Hannah I hadn't read anything before that except for what was assigned to me in school. And even then, I just tried to read the pages that I thought were going to be on the test. It was never a full book. So it's really cool to see. And there's so many examples of that when we're ready to receive something, how it can find our way to us.
It really can. And the interesting thing about that whole experience, when I read that book, obviously I was in a very depressed place, and there was a thing in it where he'd said about writing an intention for something that's, kind of something we want, something that's maybe bigger than us, and something that will bring a value or healing to our life. So I must have written that, and I put it in this pot, which you have to basically break the pot in order to get the the money or the message out, whatever you put. So I put it in this pot, and I'd forgotten. And then just before I met Neil, I had been to India with my mum on a journey of the Golden Triangle, which was a feat in itself, to go to India in a wheelchair. I don't need to go into logistics there. And it was it was like a coming home journey for me. And when I went to the Taj Mahal, I had this incredible experience where everything flashed before me, and I was overwhelmed with gratitude and felt this very sense of peace. And I remember, sitting watching the sunset there thinking, okay, this might not have been how the 16-year-old me envisioned, but just, I am so thankful. Like, this is amazing. So I came home from that holiday, and I saw that pot that it must have come from houses, many years later, and I thought, God, I must open that pot. What's in there? Because I remember that I'd somehow managed to siphon the money out that I put in there. So I got a kind of hammer, knocked the top of the pot off, and all that remained in there was this piece of message that said about my intention, and this letter I'd written to God, and about peace, and how that, you know, my intention was beyond money, beyond all the kind of things that we want, is peace. And, you know, when you suddenly get that moment of you've asked for something and it really has been given to you. And I just remember like crying happiness. And I thought, this is amazing. And obviously I was able to share that with Neil as synchronicity, that 5 days later I met him. So wow. Yeah, it was all in alignment and timing, which was, you know, it felt a very magical experience, you know.
That's a beautiful story, especially the fact that you did it 5 days prior to meeting him. Out of all the times that you could have done it, 5 days after.
Well, yeah.
You're like, oh, I wish I would have done this.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, when I saw the intention paper, I thought, gosh, what did I write on it? I thought, I better ask for money. I better ask for like love. I better, and it floored me that I must have written that from a pure place of source, that it wasn't what I necessarily thought I would have asked for. And when we make that intention peace beyond all the other things, it kind of changes everything. And that floored me, and it made me then remember that when we're asking for all those other things, to always remember for the greater, what's the feeling, what's the deeper intention behind something, and to begin to apply that to other things in my life.
So good. That's so good. That's been my number one intention, Hannah, is just the feeling that I want to be in. And, you know, because we all have these desires that we have, things that we want to create. And
yeah,
you know, once I became aware that it's really, you know, what's my state of being, what's my energy, what's my frequency, what's my vibration when I'm, you know, if those things were to manifest right now, you know, how am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling joyful. So in order for anything to happen that I'm excited about, that I want to see manifest, like I'm going to need to be first in that happy, joyful, you know, appreciative, you know, peaceful, you know, place. And so the fact that I need to be that, you know, in order to have that, I don't even have to think about that, because I get to actually have the happiness and the peace and the joy right now if I choose it, and then get to enjoy my life right now, tomorrow, you know, all the days that I'm, you know, none of those are promised, but as long as I'm here, if that's my intention, which is so powerful that it was that for you instead of, you know, something external, because all the external stuff that we want to enjoy, you know, that's part of the reason that we enjoy being physical, because we get to touch things, we get to be touched, and, you know, so that's a part of life, and an amazing part of life. However, the parts of life that we can access right here and now, and that the only parts that we really have control over, which is our energy and how we choose to present that energy into the world, that's something that can be achieved, you know, as soon as right now for any of us. And, you know, how much fun is life when we can really get in tune with that. I mean, your story is really cool, Hannah. I mean, it's especially with the contrast that you had to deal with, and at the same time being aware of a lot of these things at such a young age.
Yeah, it was, and I think that's the thing. And I felt very alone a lot of the time, because I was really lucky that everything that I was going through, I had amazing friends. And it was actually a really long time till I started to connect to people who were actually kind of into a lot of the same things as me as well, because I did feel so supported. But at the same time, there were certain things that I was kind of felt I was on this path, but I just knew that it was a path of devotion, and whatever was going to happen, that this was the right path that I was on, and the right people would come at the right time. And then they did. And that's the thing. And, you know, for me, hearing you say that, you know, beyond all those physical things, that for you, it's about the vibration. And I think that for anybody listening here, it's remembering that if you can get yourself to place what version of peace and happiness and joy, when you do maybe hit a lower place, because life, you know, life is ebbing and flowing, you know, it's vibrational. It's, you know, sometimes we're given experiences in order to shift ourselves and etc. If that underlying intention to us is peace or happiness, it will be a guiding force throughout that process. And it changes everything, because we're no longer just looking at kind of those physical items. So for anyone listening, I think, you can see from both of us, it's nice to have nice things, but believe me, you can have everything around you that is good and be looked after. But what I learned through that whole experience is that when you haven't got inner peace, it's soul destroying. And I think, we need to always remember that, because we are surrounded in society by so much images, so much information, so many people saying this, that, and the other, that often it disconnects us. Even, when we're on the spiritual path, it's very easy to get disconnected. And, for me, my daily intention is to reconnect, come back, reconnect, come back home. And I've never lost that. And that is my that's my daily kind of practice, so to speak.
Absolutely. I have to share something you just inspired me to share just now. I think we're seeing more examples in the world now, because I really feel a shift in humanity, because I think we've seen a lot of examples with, because of social media and us being able to, be connected and to see what's going on around the world so easily. I think we've seen a lot of examples of people that, on the external have so much, but at the same time, it was publicly that they just weren't happy. And, some even decided to transition, by their own means, committing suicide and these things. So I think we've seen a lot of public examples lately where I feel like there's a shift of, even with people that do have a lot that are still in the public eye, wanting to share that it's really not about that. It's about, them, their happiness and their joy and just their, the giving, whatever they're inspired to do, a lot of fulfillment stuff that I'm seeing, people starting to act on, which is just a beautiful thing, because, that's something that I root for all of us to have, because just like I said a second ago, all the other stuff that we want, in the physical can come as long as we can first, tend to our vibration and our energy. But one thing that I want to share that you inspired me to share, Hannah, once we do set that intention, because we've been talking about intention, and, say our intention is for peace or for joy or for happiness. And those are just words, and that, have a different frequency for all of us, but we can feel when we're feeling peaceful. Like, we know that for us. And the coolest thing about that for me is knowing when I'm not. And not making myself wrong for it or beating myself up for it, but if I have an intention to be loving, if I have an intention to be happy or whatever it is, a certain energy that I want to feel, first off, I make sure I feel that way coming up out of meditation every day. So like practice where, I don't get up for meditation until that's the energy that I'm in and start the day in that energy. So it's really obvious if at any time during the day I'm not in that frequency. Again, I'm not making myself wrong for it or beating myself up, because then it just gets worse and worse, my energy.
Spiral.
But I can feel immediately, and it doesn't take more than a few thoughts that are off of that frequency, off of that vibration. Say I'm critical of myself or judgmental of myself or someone else. That's so far from the frequency that I've decided that my intention that I want to live my life in, that judgment or that critical thought, that immediately I feel it within one thought. I mean, it doesn't take me an hour of like, Noel, you've been critical for an hour. Now I can feel it after the first critical thought, and I'll tell myself, stop it, Noel, before it even starts to spiral. And then with my intention, and I'm just returning back to that and then continuing to live life. So that's something that is so powerful, what you're sharing, Hannah. And my wish for all humans is to be able to, decide how they would like to feel and present themselves to the world, since that is the only thing that any of us have total control over. And just enjoy life from there, and see all the synchronicities and all the cool stuff like we've been talking about here that happens once we choose to live our life that way.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's realizing that, there might be somebody who's in a very bad position. I know some, as well as knowing some I know a wide range of people, and some of them, are in very kind of, bad places with their health. And if you can learn to control your vibration, maybe from that place where you're able to do very little, whatever is happening for you on that level, it does really change something. And I think it's really important to share that as well, that, you can still almost, it sounds crazy, feel good and feel a sense of peace, whatever place you're in. And, because we are presented with, often people think they have to be perfect. I think it's really important for people to also realize that it's about finding that peace, that happiness, that vibration, wherever you're at, and not judging yourself for not being in the place where you think you should be. Because we spend an awful lot of time thinking we should be in a place, rather than actually focusing on where we are and what can I do from that place. And I always say to someone when they say, I want this, or this is where I want to be, and I say, why do you want it? And how do you want to feel? Because I think we have this kind of thing where often we think we want something because we're seeing what someone else is experiencing, and it's bringing that question back to ourselves. Why do I want this, and how do I want to feel? And it's constantly coming back to that. Whatever path you're on, however your day is going, if you find yourself kind of moving away from that space and kind of jumping into maybe a place of comparison, like what you said when you drop, just how do I want to feel? And is this me actually wanting it, or is this the thing that I think I should be wanting that? Because, it's very easy to kind of look at something and be like, I think I want to be like that, rather than actually, is that what I really want? And I think it's important to get that clarity.
Such good advice. Really, really good advice. Rewind and listen to what Hannah just said again, if you spaced at all. That was such good advice that you just shared right there. I love that. Okay, so question that I have for you, Hannah, and because we've shared such really good stuff so far, and I had other things that I was like, I'm going to flow this, but I'm going to save it because I think you're going to share something in a minute that's going to allow me to share it, and it'll all come out perfectly anyway. But what are you excited about right now at the time of this recording? We're right at the beginning of 2019. What are you excited about this year that you're creating or that you want to share with the audience? What's going on in the world of Hannah out there in England right now?
So I'm excited about my podcast that I created, because it was something that I kind of never even thought that I would do. And that's been amazing. But my podcast was inspired through the book that I'm writing called Finding Grace, the same name as my podcast. And that for me has been something that is a long time coming. And that is, it's in the kind of final processes of finishing it now. And I'm really not scared to share my voice anymore, because for so long, despite being on that path, there was always this block to share my voice. It was like the not quite feeling good enough, because I was looking at all the teachers who I knew who were kind of, in that perfect way that, the story that I'd created, shall we say. So it's been really an amazing journey for me to be like, I'm ready to be seen. I'm ready to step out into the light and be seen. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to share that book. I'm excited to share my message. I'm excited to share my work, and to know that even if just one thing that I've learned in all of this, that even if just a few people are reading my stuff or listening or, clicking on my stuff, and I get a message and someone says, you know what, that really helped me. I needed to hear that today. I'm like, that's really cool. Because that's what I was doing even before social media, when I was reading those things or getting inspired by things. And I feel really appreciative that I'm able to kind of express that. And for me, it's been an amazing process as well, because I'm quite dyslexic. And my other fear was, I know, anybody that is will know that it's not always the easiest thing to do, but I've moved beyond that. And I'm, if you need help, sometimes you've got to ask for help. So I'm kind of co-creating. If I need somebody to check something, I go and ask for help. And that's been empowering as well, because I think very often we think we are an island. We think when we're on this path, if I don't do it by myself, somebody's going to judge me for this, or, it's not going to be right. But actually, we're not an island. We're beings that connect together, and it's a positive thing. Sometimes we need to ask for help. And that's what I learned when I was really unwell as well, that, even now there are certain things I need to ask for help with in my life. And it's been very empowering not being afraid of that. That, sometimes my physical abilities are different to yours, for instance. And do you know what? I'm okay with that. And I'm really grateful that I can ask for that help, which enables me to be able to kind of do the things. I'll give an example. My methods of living my life were, oh no, it's fine, I won't do anything, I will sit here, you go and do this. So I was going away on holiday, for instance, because I could only walk very small amounts, and I was getting somebody else, to do everything without me. And it was, an ex-boyfriend of mine was like, right, we need to do something about this. You need to listen to the advice of the people you've got. You're damaging yourself. my joints, I just need to get over this. And he was really harsh, and he was just basically like, get over yourself. And I was like, okay, And when I went out for that first time in the wheelchair, yeah, people stared. People still do sometimes. However, I got my life back. And then when I changed from using a manual one to an electric one, it was like freedom. I cannot describe what it was like to go out. Sometimes even now I go out and I feel like this thing, like, this is amazing, because there was a time in my life when I never even believed that was possible. I can walk down the street with my friends and I'm like, we're beside each other. How cool is this? How cool is this? Like, we can like not think about how difficult it's going to be to get there. We can get there. And that is just been amazing for me. And to be able to share that and empower other people in those positions to say, there is a way. That's what I'm excited about. And that's what I'm hoping through my work, that people can realize there is a way. It is possible.
So beautiful, Hannah. You're such an inspiration, and I love your energy that comes through. And the gratitude is just a big part of your life. Like, I can feel it through everything that you say. And it's really a great example for everybody listening of, just the challenges that, we experience in our life. They're going to be challenging, because that's why they're called challenges. However, there is a way for us to still find that appreciation, that gratitude for what we are experiencing, because we're still breathing breath, and our heart is still beating, and there's things that we still get to enjoy, and there's smiles and laughs and human connection. And you highlighted so beautifully how we are all connected, and how much fun it is to empower another human being, and then also how good it feels to be empowered. It goes both ways. And how there's people that are in your life out there listening right now that you could empower just with a smile or a hug or just a loving conversation, and you have no idea the impact that can make on them, for them to go out and pay that forward, and maybe do the same thing, or to go create something, or just to feel good about where they are in life. So I love what you said. Like, I love the connection that I feel to you, Hannah, just in this short conversation, and to all of you 7.6 billion of you out there listening. Maybe not all in the same language just yet, but I know there's technology being worked on that's going to allow us all to connect even more on the language front.
I think it's magic, isn't it? It's pure magic that, even that we're able to have this conversation and we're sat on other sides of the world. That is something to be so grateful for, the fact we have been able to do this.
Absolutely. I appreciate technology so much, because I've never personally been inspired to create any, but I experience and love all of it. So for those
same.
of you, for those of you technology creators out there, thank you. And I'm greatly looking forward to whatever it is that you guys decide to create next, to make our lives even more fun and even easier to do. Because without this technology,
Definitely.
how could we have this conversation and share it with the world? I mean, one thing to have the conversation, but to be able to also record it and share it with anyone on the planet is awesome.
With a click, essentially, that people can connect with us through, like, one click through something, clicks you into this conversation. And it blows my mind sometimes that we're able to do that still. And I don't think I've never even got over the fact that we can email, because my dad always worked away, and he worked on ships, and we relied on, I was growing up, it was letters. And, the phone calls were 7 English pounds a minute. So at the time, phone calls were like 5 minutes, you're off the phone. So when we got to email, every time I send an email still, sometimes I'm like, this is so cool, because I remember when, that was something that just we weren't doing. So that's even amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we all walk around with a secondary brain in our pocket at all times.
It's the same with my electric wheelchair. Sometimes I'm like, this is my own little car, and this is like, brilliant, the fact that this was made, and I can have that. It's basically, as my friends call it, my legs.
Absolutely.
So and so that's amazing in itself.
Love it. So cool. Okay, so Hannah, I have one more question that I've been asking everybody, and I'm excited to ask you. I know you've already shared a lot of this through everything that you've shared so far. But, you know, for all of you guys out there that have been listening for a while, you know that I always share that my journey of wanting to share the things that I've become aware of started with me asking myself the question, you know, if today were my last, have I shared with humanity all of the things that I've become aware of that could potentially uplift someone, you know, whenever they come across it, maybe while I'm here, maybe long after I'm gone, but just wanting to pour it all out. And so, you know, for you, Hannah, what is it that, in addition to all the beautiful things you've already shared with us, that you'd love for anyone out there listening to this, whenever they come across it, to hear from you that could potentially uplift them and their lives?
Well, as I said to you about potential, I want anybody who's listening to know that no matter how dire things are, you can change it, you can shift it. And sometimes it's not always in the way you want it to be, but it's having that faith and that trust that the right thing will come to you. And I think it's creating that conversation with the universe that I want to be able to share with people, that sometimes we have to take our hands off the wheel, as Gabrielle Bernstein says, and let God do the driving. And it's about letting the universe know what we really need and allowing that to happen, because I think we often get so fixed on things and I want it to be like this. And I want to share with anyone that sometimes it's good to have the, you know, the focus, and it's good to have the desire, but it's also good to release a bit of resistance to that, because sometimes we're blocking things in our life to come through when we get so fixed on things. I mean, and I'm saying this as somebody that was obsessed about healing in a certain way. And that obsession for quite a few years left me in a place where, you know, I gained a lot of knowledge from that. But what that did, I stopped living. And what I want to share with people, as much as you want to do your desires and your creating and how you want things to be, choose life. Choose life and choose love, because what you said about it could be your last breath. When I look back to some of those times when I was obsessed. It was an obsession, and it did stop me from living. And it was very liberating when actually it came from a very God spoke through somebody who was very much not into this, who basically said, I think you need to stop. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, that's not exactly going to help me, is it? And, you know, I went away and reflected on it, and I kind of reflected on the place I was in. And I gave myself this question, well, I wonder how liberating it would be just to do that. And I just gave it a go. And essentially, I reclaimed my life, because very often we're giving away our power without even realizing it. And I would say to anybody, you know, when you're on your mission and when you're doing your kind of stuff, check in with yourself, reclaim your power on a regular basis, and choose life. Choose beyond the kind of, I need to be doing this, I need to fulfill my mission. Choose something greater than that, because it will actually superpower what you're doing. It's be a force and energy behind it that will be bigger than you. And you move from a place of, you know, solely me to a bigger space of we, when you kind of choose to live your life fully, and you choose happiness, and you choose to kind of sometimes have fun and sometimes have laughter. So to anybody listening, don't just, you know, it's good to be on your mission and your path, but choose happiness, choose life, and choose to laugh sometimes. Be really silly, because it, you know, it can get very underrated in how we're living right now, you know. So that would be my kind of parting advice to anybody here listening.
Wow, that's so good, Hannah. That's such good advice. You just made it so easy for me to know which part of this episode I'm going to use as a little promo video on Instagram, because I've been choosing which part that just, you just were flowing so beautifully there. Choose life, choose love. That is so powerful. For everybody listening, Hannah just said so many things that, you know, you'll receive what you're ready to receive. You know, listening to that once, I highly recommend listening to that again, because there's lots of little things that she said in there, as far as, you know, having, when you said having almost like a superpower, and I might misquote you, but whenever we're choosing to be happy and we're choosing love, then we are connected with that superpower. Call it God, call it the universe, call it.
Yeah.
And when we're trying to make all these happen, then we're so stuck on, I need it to happen this way. And we do have that resistance, as you described. In those moments, we don't have access to that superpower, that loving energy, that could be flowing the next idea or the next person into our path. Like when we're over here on our own path, just, I'm going to do it this way and I have to get this done this way. We're really working with limited resources instead of unlimited resources. And that's what I really just grasped from what you shared. And that was so beautifully said. I love that. That's a really good place to keep this enlightened conversation, unless you have more that you want to share, and then I'll let you keep sharing as long as you like.
I've enjoyed having this conversation and being able to share this stuff, because like we both said, before we'd even started, that these are powerful places. These are platforms where we're helping people create potential. We're helping people maybe kind of give them that lift that may shift everything for them. So, that for me is what the magic of this has been. And to be able to share that and to encourage everybody to share their truth and share their voice in their way, and know that their way is okay. It's okay to be you, because when we are reading so many books or taking in so many seminars and all of those things, my kind of, if you something final to say is, remember to be you. Choose you as well, because it can be very easy to get lost in something that isn't always in alignment with us. And my other kind of big thing is about, is this really truly in alignment with me? So as something parting, ask yourself that question on a regular basis, and choose yourself above it all, because then you'll be on your path, on your truth, and you will flow from that place, even if it doesn't quite look as though the shiny thing you may have been aspiring to, it will be true.
So good. So good. Everybody out there, make sure you connect with Hannah, and her link right under the description. Connect with her on Instagram. All of her information will be really easy to find. And I highly recommend getting her book when that is released, and Finding Grace, and connecting with her podcast. And because the energy that you're feeling from her in this episode right now is what she's become aware of and is allowing to flow through her. And that's what you'll feel in her book. That's what you'll feel in her podcast, and through her posts that she's posting on social media. You could just tell that she's someone that really enjoys uplifting, humanity, and just whoever is attracted into her path, whether you're attracted to listen to her podcast or read her book, or just that you're attracted to one of her posts, which I love about social media. It's like all of a sudden we could be on someone's page and not even quite know how we got there. Like we clicked and we're like, wow, I needed to read that. And, I just really appreciate the energy that you shared with the audience today, and how you're presenting yourself to the world, and how you're living your life is a really great example for everybody out there. And just a reminder of how powerful all of us really are. And the same energy flowing to and through Hannah is the same energy flowing to and through you out there listening. And so
definitely,
become aware of that, and float in the direction of whatever is exciting to you, starting right now in the moment and the next moment. And just let your life be a accumulation of beautiful moments that you're happy in, that you're living your truth, whatever that is for you. And that is my recommendation for all of us. So really appreciate you, Hannah, for coming on and sharing your energy. And thank you everybody out there for listening, and for watching, for those of you guys watching on YouTube. And it's been a really beautiful journey thus far. We're just getting started, and excited to continue sharing these episodes. Make sure you share this. There's probably people that popped into your mind while listening or watching this episode, and it was not a coincidence. Definitely share this link with them. Make sure that they can receive what they're ready to receive. That energy will always feel good to you, empowering another human being. It'll always flow back to you as well. And all of us out there, we can be, do, and have anything. And I'm rooting for all of you. So happy to be in a planet of 7.6 billion of you. It'd get a little boring, Hannah, if it was just you and I. We'd have fun, but I like experiencing what all you guys want to create out there. So
definitely.
More things.
And thanks for having me on as well.
Yeah, no, we definitely enjoyed having you, and your energy is awesome. I'm super excited to be connected with you now, and just to see what you choose to create. And you have a raving fan out in Miami from the other side of the world.
Thank you.
Love it. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you soon on another episode of Enlightened Conversations. Have an amazing day, everyone. Cool.
Yay!
So much fun. You're awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. Great.
Yeah.
Now.